So what's going on is if there's two real audiences that are affected by this. One are the people who enjoy Facebook all the time, and the other one is the marketers who are trying to, and the businesses who try to use Facebook on a regular basis to connect with their fans, right? And to help get the brand message out about, their business. So anyhow, if you've been on Facebook in the last week or so, it probably looks a lot different from you. Have you been focusing? Have you seen like a bunch of old friends you haven't seen in a while?
Yes.
And things like that?
Yes.
Yeah, I noticed that too. I remember when it first came out, like I didn't even know that the press release was happening, and I was sitting on the couch next to my wife, and I go, Haley, Facebook's done something. Like I'm seeing people that I haven't seen in forever in this feed. Like there's been some kind of a change, and lo and behold, you and I came on the show that morning, and then I went back and sat at my desk, and the next thing I know is I see a big headline that said, Facebook business pages are dead. And I was like, oh my God, that's pretty significant.
Right.
Exactly.
Because
right.
this is technically a business page, right?
We have a business page. Exactly.
Yeah, this show streams through a business page.
Right.
Okay.
So that's the headline. So then what are we going to do about it, right? And so first thing, I saw one quote, people aren't having a cow, they're having like a whole herd of cows, right? So everybody's freaking out in the marketing world. Well, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to give you a few tips on what you can do about it. But first, maybe give you a little background on what and why this all went down.
Okay.
All right. So if you remember several years ago, if you've used Facebook for several years, you'll notice that if you used to like a business page, like let's say you liked mountain climbing and you liked REI. Well, what would happen is every time REI came out with, some content, they would, it would show up in your news feed and be like, hey, this is pretty cool, right? Like I'm so glad, like I get to keep up with this, this business or this brand that I'm really passionate about. It could have been REI, it could have been Patagonia, Bass Pro Shops. Think about your hobbies. If you liked a business that was active in them, it was a good thing that it was showing up in your news feed. Well, it was really effective. From a marketing standpoint, it was really, really effective. We were getting fantastic engagement. You were getting all this organic reach and traffic. It was the best way you could possibly, advertise your brand at that time. And I remember the agency was asked at the time, we started to figure out like it's going to take a lot more work to create all these posts and everything else. And we were getting all this free advertising. And so lo and behold, Zuckerberg comes out and goes, okay, we're going to limit the amount of commercial reach you get because people's news feeds started filling up with advertising. So it went from 100% of the time that a business would post to where it ended up being like 10% of the time or 7% of the time. And over the last year or so, it whittled down to like 3 and 4% of the time that your post would actually show up in, your audience's newsfeed, even if they liked your page, right? And so corporations are furious because they just spent like tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars building these audiences, okay? So anyhow, like don't jump off the boat, don't jump off a cliff. Like there's stuff you can do about it. There's still usefulness to your audiences. And I also, one of the things.
So let me ask you something. So when we go live, before last Friday, everybody who liked our page got a notification saying, "Hey, by the way, the Wake.Show is live." Is that still the case?
So everybody who liked it never got the notification because we were way after that. That went down. So like only about 10% of our fans would actually get a notification.
And why is that?
It's just they were trying to limit the amount of reach. If you remember using Facebook 3 weeks ago, it was people started to use it less because all they saw were businesses and only like the same handful of friends and family that they normally saw.
But the thing is, we weren't asking for you to put our business page in somebody else's feed that doesn't want to see us. They came here, liked what we were doing. We're building a community, which is what Facebook wants. We're trying to build a community here. And then all of a sudden, like, no, don't worry about it.
Right. So it doesn't seem fair, right?
No.
That's why marketers are so upset.
And the thing is, it's also interesting because it was just a month ago, right before this was all going down, that I swear people were first complaining, or I was seeing more and more people complain about their news feeds, and that it was just seemed like it was the same 5-10 people over and over and over again.
Exactly. Well, the good news is that Facebook has done something to kind of rewind the tape. I mean, if you remember using Facebook 6 years ago, it used to be kind of like a cool thing, right? You were connecting with people you hadn't seen since high school or college.
It's still a cool thing unless you're under like 20, and then it's not cool just because
your dad and your
you're
mom
20,
are on
right?
there, or your grandparents don't want to see what's going on, right?
Right.
So anyhow, if you are caught up in all of this, I mean, if we're users, we're probably going to enjoy Facebook more. There's going to be a little bit more engaging content. But if you're a company, there's stuff that you can do about it to make sure that your social media strategy isn't like completely thrown out the window. So I prepared some tips.
All right, Cords, Owen.
All right. So tip 1 is, I don't know if you can see this or not, or if it's focusing.
Yep.
So tip 1, if it's not worth promoting, it's not worth posting. So if you wouldn't spend $10 to promote it, or $100 or $5 to actually push it, because Facebook still wants you to post as a business, but they just want you to pay for all your reach. Right. So the idea is, again, if it's not worth promoting, it's probably not worth posting. Motivational Monday is a complete waste of time.
Well, that's depressing to me.
Exactly. Not very motivating.
Well, no, yeah.
Right.
Okay, next tip.
Well, on the flip side of that, we'll talk about that in
so
a second.
I mean, I guess you're right, because my thought is, well, not everything is worth necessarily promoting, but if they go to the Wake.Show, I want them to see this, the picture of my dogs from behind the scenes this morning.
Different. So let me explain why that's different. If it doesn't have a heart, if it doesn't connect with your audience in an emotional way, it doesn't belong on Facebook, right? But you have to engage with people.
All right, so let me ask you something, because one of the things that I wanted to start to do today with our new format is posting just a couple of stories that will end up. One will go out on in mid-afternoon, later this afternoon, and then one will post tonight. It's a story from the day, but then a question, so I can get feedback from it. So that then the next day when we come in here, I've got some screenshots already ready to go from a story that I posted yesterday and da-da-da. But
so I've got good news for you. Tip number 2.
Okay.
Focus on gaining comments. Okay, so basically what Facebook has said is that they believe that comments are the most authentic way to measure genuine human, and that's their genuine human engagement, genuine human interest.
Not shares, not likes.
Shares, likes, they're not as good as comments. Comments are more real. Like, you can't fake a comment as much as a bot can fake a like, can fake a share, things like that. So this is them trying to make their platform more interesting. So when we do things like trivia, hey, Trivia Tuesdays might still be a good idea, right? Because people get to answer in the news feed.
And the thing is, to what you're talking about, because I watched the engagement right there was immediate. People, even though they knew they weren't going to win anything,
right,
or they just were playing along, just type it in. So a trivia feature every single day at lunch, whether we're giving away something or not, might be a good thing.
Right. So you always want to ask your audience, the people who follow you, the people that it does get in front of, whether or very tiny amount of organic, or whether you're paying to get in front of those people, if you can get them to engage, you might get past the firewall in Google and Facebook's algorithm that gets you a little bit more reach, okay? Which is what you're going for, okay? And then the other way to know whether or not your promotion is actually getting in front of people and whether or not it's getting the engagement you want is to promote your posts. So that's my tip number 3. And I've only got 5 of these guys, so don't get too bored. So tip number 3 is manage your promotions wisely. So what that means is, like, for example, we just had a what was his name? Andrew Theopolis?
Exactly. Well, that was his credited name, Andrew Theopolis.
Mm-hmm. So what we did was we took that post and we promoted it on Facebook. And so as a marketer, I get to see how much of that promotion, how much of that audience is actually organic, how many people are sharing it organically, liking it organically, engaging it organically, and how much of it is paid. And so what you get to see is obviously what you want a post that's going to have a lot more organic features to it or results. And so when you're actually paying to put it in front of people, if people are seeing that it's worthwhile, they're sharing it with people. And so we got to measure
Then it becomes organic.
Then it becomes has more potential.
Because it seems like an oxymoron, or it seems like they're setting you up for failure if they're like, if you're talking about things need to be organic, except for the fact that we aren't going to allow anything organic to leave your page unless you pay for it.
Right, exactly. And so the good thing to remember too is so you don't have to have $100 to promote everything. Like you could promote it with $5. You're going to get in front of like 500 people, and you're going to get to measure. You're going to get to see. So like, let's say you're posting every 20 times a month. You maybe have $5 set aside for a post for every single one of those, just so that you can see for a fact how viral it is.
So you're spending your $5 to kind of test out whether or not this is worth spending $20 on or $100 on.
It's like research, right?
Okay, all right.
So then the other thing too is, remember, Facebook isn't the only game in town, right? There's other social media platforms. So open your mind, open your strategy. Okay.
All right. Understand how to not just use Facebook, but
right.
Instagram, how that benefits.
Exactly.
Like one of the things that I still don't understand, or I still can't wrap my head around on how it would benefit me, is Snapchat. Yet Snapchat is the go-to platform for anybody under the age of like 21 or something like that.
Exactly. So as marketers, we know that certain platforms attract different kinds of users. So like if you are in college or younger, Snapchat is your platform you want to figure out how you're going to promote yourself on. If you're a little bit older, that's Instagram. People are going there because their parents aren't on Instagram, and there's not nearly as much commercial content, etc. And if your parents are like, a Gen Xer and older, Facebook is really where you're at. And it's significant amounts of people. I mean, we're talking about gigantic swaths of the population are on Facebook.
Right.
It's
and I'm also a Twitter guy, too. I'm a Twitter guy.
Yeah. Twitter's great. So Twitter and Instagram are famous. Like, they are... The whole point of Twitter and Instagram is to reach out and get new people, okay? Facebook is more about communicating with your existing friends and family, your existing connections. You don't meet a lot of new people unless they're agreeing with you, on your opinion and things like that on Facebook. But Instagram and Twitter are designed to syndicate. So open your mind, open your strategy. And then finally, here's my last piece of advice for you. Just meet with your social media team. If you've got a team, if you've got an intern, if it's you, reevaluate your strategy.
I meet with myself at least once a day.
Exactly. Me too. But anyhow, so evaluate your strategy, because you might want a different mix. I mean, if you look at the stock price for Facebook, it's taken a little bit of a hit from this announcement, because basically Zuckerberg's saying that we're going to take a short-term revenue hit, and there's people who are focused on, growth of the business, profits, and things like that. Their profits will go down from this. But ultimately, Zuckerberg feels like long-term it's a better strategy to have higher quality entertainment experience for the users on Facebook.
To me, as a normal person, it seems like he is making decisions for the betterment of all of us who are using Facebook, not just making decisions to see how much money he can extract from everybody.
It seems that way, right? It seems that way. But maybe so. But even if you looked at it from the money motivated side of things, he's thinking about it as a long term thing versus a short term thing. So if he fixes Facebook, because I think a lot of us would agree, like 4 weeks ago, the way it was, 3 weeks ago, it wasn't as entertaining as it is today. Like literally, I go on there today. I mean, just anecdotally, my own personal experience. Like I'll spend like 20 minutes going through my news feed because I'm keep seeing these new things of people like that are, very, not as
in the periphery.
In the periphery, exactly. That's a great way to say it. And so I keep seeing people like that in my news feed versus, where it was 2 weeks ago, I would see the same 6 people. And it's just boring. And then I would see all these advertisements.
Well, listen, I appreciate that you've come in here to break this down, because there are plenty of people viewing this that will watch this that this is important to. So just real quickly, if you don't mind, just run down those 5 things. Just boom,
absolutely.
boom, 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 boom.
Right.
And then, if it's okay by you, because now that I've got Mark Zuckerberg here on my screen and you on my screen, I got to do a split screen here in a second, because I think you're the same person.
That's awesome. That's perfect. All right. So tip 1. If it isn't worth promoting, it isn't worth posting. Okay. Tip 2, focus on gaining comments to your post, not on, getting likes and shares. Those things are still great, but really it's the comments that make a difference. And then manage your promotions wisely. So you can use this as a tool to measure the engagement of your posts, and it's a great way because you bought that data. You get to see how, as a matter of fact, your posts are. If you don't buy it, if you're just counting on the organic statistics. You don't get to know exactly what's happening to your posts. And then open your strategy, open your mind, open your strategy. Look at other platforms. There might be some new social media network that's emerging that will be better than Facebook. And this is opening the door for that type of a thing. And then finally, meet with your team that is creating your social media strategy. Ask them what this means to your business, because every business is different. Ask them how it's making a difference in your strategy, and come up with a plan to address the changes.
All right, Cords, now if you could just look in the camera and put on a big smile. And yep, I'm pretty sure you're Mark Zuckerberg, or you guys are related somewhere along the way there.
Yeah, I'll have to get the the 21andMe or 23andMe analysis. Yeah, exactly.
I think it'll be pretty close there. Well, cool, man. So what's that mean for the future of our show? Does it mean we change what we're doing around here? Our approach changes some?
We will make some tweaks, and that's what I told you about. For example, that interview that we did with the Faces of Death director producer, like, that's getting different kinds of play on YouTube than it is on Facebook. And so I'm actually really proud of the YouTube numbers, because they are truly growing organically, and YouTube wants to syndicate. So we'll have probably some slight changes to our strategy, but overall what we're doing is absolutely the way of the future. I mean, look at Don Imus. He just announced he's retiring. Just happened.
Oh, I didn't even know he was still alive. So I mean,
well, but you talk about one of the most famous radio personalities of all time, and Cumulus just canceled his contract. So you've got all of this kind of turmoil happening in the terrestrial radio space, and they're all trying to figure out what we're doing, and we're at least a year and a half ahead of them, and we're building a community here. So we're going to have this figured out before anybody else.
All right, just one more shot of Zuckerberg before we go. And back to you.